Syleth hated markets. The noise. The smell of 100 different species crammed into narrow corridors. The constant brush of bodies against her scales. But the weapons dealer only worked from Station Meridian, and the Draken Empire needed those plasma cores. So here she was, 7 feet of crimson scales and military precision, pushing through crowds that parted like water before a shark. The merchant tried to cheat her. They always did. Syleth placed one clawed hand on the counter and let her eyes glow just slightly brighter. The merchant suddenly remembered the correct price. Transaction complete, Syleth gathered the 3 heavy containers and turned to leave. That's when she heard it. A voice speaking Draken, but wrong somehow. The words were correct, but the accent was all off, like someone had learned from recordings rather than speakers. "Excuse me, lady. You need help with those boxes?" Syleth looked down. A human child stood there, barely reaching her waist. The girl was thin, too thin, wearing a jumpsuit that had been patched so many times the original color was anyone's guess. Her hair was brown and tangled, pulled back with a piece of wire. But her eyes were bright and she smiled up at Syleth without a trace of fear. "I do not require assistance," Syleth said in her own language, curious if the child would understand. "Oh, okay. But those look really heavy and you got 3 of them. I could carry one maybe. I'm stronger than I look." The girl flexed one small arm proudly. Syleth felt something strange in her chest. Amusement, perhaps. Or confusion. Humans feared her. Everyone feared her. The Dragon Lady of the 5th Fleet had earned that fear through decades of warfare. Yet this tiny creature offered to help carry her burdens. "Why are you speaking Draken?" Syleth asked. "Old Pete taught me. He works in the reactor core. He's nice. He shares his food sometimes when I'm hungry." The girl switched to human standard language. "I can speak this too. And a little bit of Venturi, but not much. The clicking sounds are hard. Where are your parents?" The brightness in the child's eyes flickered but didn't fade. "They're coming back soon. They had to go somewhere for work, but they'll be back." They promised. Syleth's military training kicked in. She analyzed the child in seconds. Malnourished. Clothes worn for months without replacement. Living rough. The girl was an orphan, almost certainly, but didn't know it yet or refused to accept it. "How long have they been gone?" Syleth asked, her voice gentler than she intended. The girl counted on her fingers. "A lot of days. But that's okay. I'm being good while I wait. I help people and I don't steal food unless I'm really, really hungry. And even then only small stuff from the big shipments where they won't notice." "What is your name?" "Lily, what's yours?" "Commander Syleth." She watched the girl's face but saw no recognition. Good. The child was innocent of who she was, what she'd done. That's pretty. Commander is a nice name. Syleth is my name. Commander is my rank. Oh, like how Pete is maintenance technician Pete. Okay. Lily nodded seriously. Then she looked up at Syleth with an expression so hopeful it hurt. "Can I ask you something kind of weird?" "Speak. Can you be my mother for a few days? Just until mine comes back?" The words hit Syleth like a plasma blast. She stood completely still, staring down at this human child who had just asked the impossible. A Draken warrior, a commander of fleets, a killer with 1,000 deaths on her conscience, asked to play pretend at something she'd lost the right to decades ago. "No," she said. Lily's face fell, but she nodded. "Okay, that's okay. You're probably really busy with important stuff. Sorry for asking." The girl turned to leave and Syleth felt that strange sensation in her chest again, sharper now. She remembered another child, small and weak, taken by disease before she'd seen her first season. She remembered holding that tiny body and swearing never to feel that pain again. She'd kept that promise through 40 years of war. "Wait." Lily turned back, hope returning to her face. Syleth had made countless decisions in her military career. She'd ordered bombardments that killed thousands. She'd negotiated treaties that reshaped sectors. She'd faced down enemy fleets without hesitation. But this decision, this absurd request from a malnourished human child in a refugee corridor, felt heavier than all of those combined. "A few days," Syleth heard herself say, "until your mother returns." The smile that lit up Lily's face was brighter than any sun. The girl ran forward and hugged Syleth around the legs, the only part she could reach. Syleth stood frozen, arms full of weapons containers, completely unprepared for the surge of feeling that came with that small gesture of trust. "Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll be really good, I promise. I won't cause any trouble." I'm very quiet and I don't eat much and I know how to stay out of the way when people are busy. Come, Syleth said, her voice rough. Carry this one. It is the lightest. She handed Lily the smallest container. The girl staggered under the weight but refused to put it down, determination written across her face. Together, the Draken commander and the human child walked through the market. People stared. Whispers followed them. The dragon lady, accompanied by a human youngling. Impossible. Syleth's quarters were in the military section of the station, sparse and cold and filled with weapons. Lily walked in and her eyes went wide. Wow. You have so much cool stuff. What's that? She pointed at a trophy blade on the wall, a weapon from an enemy I defeated. Did you kill them? Yes? Oh. Lily thought about this. Was it in a war? Pete says wars are sad, but sometimes necessary. Pete is wise. Yeah, he's pretty smart for an old guy. Lily set down the container with a grunt of relief. So where do I sleep? I'm good at sleeping anywhere. Floors are fine. I got practice. Syleth looked around her quarters. One bed designed for a draken. One chair, one desk. Nothing suitable for a human child. She had agreed to this without thinking it through, which was completely unlike her. You will take the bed, she said. But where will you sleep? Draken require less sleep than humans. I will manage. Lily climbed onto the bed, which was far too large for her, and bounced once experimentally. It's soft. I haven't had soft in forever. She looked at Syleth with sudden worry. Are you sure this is okay? You won't get in trouble? Syleth thought of the regulations she was violating, the questions her superiors would ask, the complications this would cause. I am sure, she said, and realized she meant it. 3 days passed and Syleth's entire world turned upside down. She had fought in wars that lasted years without feeling this disoriented. The human child was everywhere, touching everything, asking questions that never seemed to end. Lily wanted to know about every weapon, every scar, every piece of equipment in the quarters. Syleth found herself answering with a patience she didn't know she possessed. What's this one from? Lily traced a long scar across Syleth's arm with one small finger. A blade. The enemy was skilled. Did it hurt? Yes, did you cry? Syleth paused. No one had ever asked her that. Yes, later, when no one could see. That's okay. Pete says crying is just feelings leaking out. He says it's healthy. Lily moved to another scar. And this one? They were sitting on the floor, which Syleth had never done before in her own quarters. Lily had decided this was a good place for what she called talking time, and Syleth had found herself sitting down without quite knowing why. The child had a way of making the abnormal seem natural. The first night had been difficult. Syleth worked on reports while Lily slept, grateful for the silence. But around midnight the screaming started. Syleth was on her feet with a weapon drawn before she realized the threat was memory, not physical. Lily was trapped in a nightmare, crying for her mother, reliving whatever horror had taken her parents away. Syleth stood by the bed, useless. She knew how to fight enemies. She didn't know how to fight dreams. The girl's fear was thick in the air, her heart racing so fast Syleth could hear it. Instinct took over. She remembered what Draken mothers did for frightened hatchlings. She climbed onto the bed and wrapped her wings around the small body, creating a cave of warmth and scales. Lily woke gasping and grabbed onto Syleth with desperate strength. Don't leave, don't leave, don't leave. I am here. Syleth's voice came out as a low rumble, almost a purr, something she hadn't done since her own child died. You are safe. Everyone leaves. Everyone goes away. Not tonight. Tonight I am here. Syleth began to hum, a sound from deep in her chest. It was an old lullaby one her own mother had sung. She didn't remember choosing to do it. The sound just came, low and rhythmic and ancient. Lily's breathing slowed. Her grip loosened. Within minutes she was asleep again, curled against scales that could deflect bullets, trusting completely. Syleth stayed there until dawn, wings wrapped around the child, humming songs she'd thought forgotten. Something in her chest felt warm and painful at the same time. She recognized it from long ago. It was the feeling of caring whether something lived or died. By the second day, word had spread through the station. The dragon lady had adopted a pet. Syleth heard the whispers when she walked the corridors. She saw the stares, the pointing, the barely concealed amusement. A draken warrior playing nursemaid to a human orphan. It would have been funny if it weren't her. Merchant Trell stopped her in the market. He was Venturi, all tentacles and clicking sounds, one of the few beings on the station who didn't fear her. "Commander, I hear you have a new companion. The child is staying with me temporarily. How generous. How long does she have?" The question was innocent, but it stabbed deep. Salith had been avoiding the answer, avoiding even thinking about it, until her mother returns. Trell's primary eye focused on her with what might have been pity. "And if the mother does not return? Then we will address that when it occurs. You know what happens to orphaned humans on this station, yes? They are processed, sent to facilities. The survival rate is not good." Trell's tentacles made a gesture of dismissal, but perhaps you do not care about such things. Silith felt her claws extend involuntarily. "The child's welfare is my concern now." "Of course, Commander. Of course." Trell moved away, but Silith saw the knowing look in his eye. She was caught and they both knew it. She'd made the mistake of caring. That evening, Lily helped prepare the meal. Silith had learned that humans required more frequent feeding than Draken, and different foods entirely. She'd modified the rations to accommodate, something she'd never done for any being before. Lily chattered while they worked, telling stories about the other people she'd met on the station. And then Pete said the reactor was acting funny, but he fixed it before it exploded. He's really good at fixing things. "He fixed my shoes too, see?" She held up one foot. The shoe was still worn but had been carefully repaired. "This Pete seems resourceful. He's the best. Oh, and there's Dr. Ruth. She's human, but she's hiding from someone. She doesn't say who, but she always looks scared when security comes by. And Pilot Jack, but nobody calls him Pilot anymore because he crashed his ship and now he cleans the docking bays. And Chef Boris, who isn't really a chef, but he makes food for the workers and he's got 4 arms, which means he can cook 4 things at once." Silith listened to this collection of outcasts and misfits, these people who had befriended a homeless child. "You know many people. Well, yeah. When you're waiting for your mom, you gotta do something. So I help people and they help me. That's how it works, right?" That night, Silith began her investigation. She accessed the station's records, tracing back 6 months to any incidents involving human transport ships. She found it within an hour. The colony ship Perseverance attacked by raiders in the Outer Rim. Total casualties 237. Survivors 3, all crew who'd been in the protected bridge. No passengers survived. No children survived except the ones who weren't on the ship. Except one child had survived. One child had somehow gotten off that ship before the attack. The record showed Lily had been in the station's medical bay when her parents boarded the Perseverance. She'd had a respiratory infection, nothing serious but enough to delay their departure by 1 day. They'd left her behind, planning to return. They never did. Lily didn't know. She'd been asleep when the attack happened, recovering from her illness. By the time she was well enough to leave medical, the ship was gone and no one had thought to tell a 6-year-old child that everyone she loved was dead. She'd simply been released into the station with a note about her parents coming back soon. Silith sat in the dark, staring at the report, feeling something she hadn't felt in decades. Grief and anger, and a fierce protective rage that anyone could let a child suffer like this. "Silith?" Lily's voice came from the bed. "Are you okay? You're making a growly sound." "I am fine. Go back to sleep. Can't sleep. Come do the wing thing again." "And the humming?" "It helps." Silith shut down the report and went to the bed. She wrapped her wings around Lily and hummed the old songs. The child felt so small, so fragile, so impossible to protect from the truth that was coming. Silith held her tighter and made a decision she knew would change everything. She would not let them take this child. She would not let Lily become a number in a system that didn't care. Whatever it cost, whatever rules she had to break, Lily would be safe, even if it meant fighting the entire galaxy to keep her that way. Week 3 brought changes Silith never anticipated. Her morning briefings now happened with Lily sitting in the corner, drawing pictures on old data pads. Her tactical reviews were interrupted by questions about whether mushrooms counted as vegetables. Her evening weapons maintenance sessions became lessons in why humans needed their hair washed regularly. "But it takes so long to dry," Lily complained, sitting wrapped in a towel that was far too large. "It takes longer if you get sick from not washing it." Silith attempted to run a comb through the tangled mess. Human hair was surprisingly complex. "Hold still. Ow, ow, ow. You're pulling." "I am being gentle. Your gentle is still really strong. Here, let me show you." Lily took the comb and demonstrated the proper technique. See, small pieces. Start at the bottom, work up. Pete's daughter taught me before she moved away. Syleth adjusted her approach using a fraction of her strength. Slowly, the tangles came free. Lily relaxed, humming something under her breath. Syleth realized with a start that it was the Draken lullaby she'd been singing at night. The child had learned it by heart. There, Syleth said when the hair was finally smooth. Adequate. You mean I look pretty? I did not say that, but you thought it. I can tell. Lily grinned at her reflection in the mirror. Thanks, Mom. The word hung in the air between them. Lily froze, realizing what she'd said. Syleth felt her chest tighten. Neither of them moved. Sorry, Lily whispered. I didn't mean... I know you're not really... It is acceptable, Syleth said, her voice carefully neutral. An understandable error. But it wasn't an error, and they both knew it. Something had shifted between them, something that couldn't be taken back. Lily smiled, small and hopeful, and went to get dressed. Syleth stood alone in the bathing room, staring at her reflection, wondering what she'd become. The station's outcasts began gathering in Syleth's quarters. It started with old Pete, who came by to check on Lily and ended up staying for evening meal. Then Dr. Ruth appeared, nervous and quiet, drawn by Lily's invitation. Pilot Jack followed, then Chef Boris, then others. Beings who'd been invisible to Syleth before, all connected by one small human girl who saw people instead of positions. This is weird, right? Jack said one evening, looking around at the mismatched group crammed into military quarters. The dragon lady hosting dinner parties. That's weird. If you are uncomfortable, you may leave, Syleth said coolly. No. I like weird. Weird is good. Jack helped himself to more food. I'm just saying 2 months ago you made a grown man cry just by looking at him. Now you're teaching a kid to braid hair. It's a lot of personal growth. I made him cry because he attempted to steal military equipment. Sure, but you didn't kill him. Old you would have killed him. Syleth considered this. Old her would have killed him. Old her would never have allowed civilians in her quarters. Old her would have turned Lily away that first day without a second thought. When had she changed? When had this small human rewired everything she thought she knew about herself? Tell the story again. Lily bounced excitedly. The one about the Battle of Red Stars. No, Syleth said automatically. Please? Everyone wants to hear it. Right, guys? The group nodded eagerly. Syleth sighed, recognizing a battle she couldn't win. She told the story, editing out the worst parts, making it more adventure than horror. Lily listened with shining eyes, asking questions about tactics and weapons and honor. The child saw glory where Syleth only saw death. After everyone left, Lily helped clean up. She'd gotten better at household tasks, learning the routines that made sharing space possible. Syleth watched her work, this tiny human who'd invaded her life and refused to leave. 3 weeks ago, Syleth's biggest concern was requisitioning enough ammunition for the fleet exercises. Now she worried about whether Lily's clothes were warm enough, whether she was eating properly, whether the nightmares would come again tonight. Syleth? Lily's voice was uncertain. Can I ask you something real? Always. How much longer do you think until my mom comes back? There it was. The question Syleth had been dreading. She sat down slowly, bringing herself to Lily's eye level. Come here. Lily climbed into her lap, small and trusting. Syleth wrapped her arms around the child, choosing her words carefully. What if your mother cannot come back? She will, she promised. Sometimes people break promises, not because they want to, but because circumstances prevent them. Like if they got hurt? Yes, like that. Lily was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was very small. They're dead, aren't they? That's what you're trying to say. My mom and dad are dead. Syleth's arms tightened. I believe so, yes, the child didn't cry. She just sat there, breathing slowly, processing information that would shatter most adults. Finally, she said, I kinda knew. I just didn't want to know, you know? It was easier to wait. I understand. So what happens now? Do I have to leave? No. The word came out with absolute certainty. You stay here. With me. Really? You mean it? I do not say things I do not mean. Lily twisted around to look at Syleth's face, searching for truth. Whatever she saw there satisfied her. Okay, then I'll stay. If you want me. I want you, Syleth said, and meant it more than she'd meant anything in years. You are mine now. I will protect you. And I'll protect you too. I'm not very big yet, but I'll grow. Yes, you will grow. Silith felt moisture on her scales. Lily was crying silently, grief finally allowed to surface. It is acceptable to feel sad, I know. Pete says feelings have to come out or they poison you from inside. Lily wiped her eyes. I'm sad they're gone. But I'm happy you're here. Is it okay to feel both? It is okay to feel both. They sat together in the quiet, guardian and child, warrior and orphan, two beings who should never have connected but somehow fit together perfectly. Outside the station hummed with life. Inside, something new was being built. Not a temporary arrangement, not a few days until someone else came, a family. Strange and broken and completely impossible, but real nonetheless. Lily fell asleep in Silith's arms. The nightmares didn't come that night. Silith carried her to bed and tucked her in, performing rituals she'd thought lost forever. She stood watching the child sleep, scales glinting in the low light, claws that had ended so many lives now infinitely gentle on small shoulders. Somewhere in the military complex, alarms would soon sound. Reports would be filed, questions would be asked. Silith was violating regulations, ignoring duties, making choices that would have consequences. She knew all this and didn't care. Let them come. Let them try to take this child away. They would learn why the Dragon Lady was feared across the galaxy. Because now she had something to protect that mattered more than war. The man from Galactic Services wore a gray suit that matched his personality. He arrived during breakfast, flanked by two security officers, carrying a datapad filled with legal documents. His name was Inspector Wade, and he looked at Lily the way someone might look at a misplaced piece of cargo. Commander Silith, I'm here regarding the human miner currently residing in your quarters without proper authorization. Silith stood between Wade and Lily, her stance automatically defensive. The child is under my protection. The child is a ward of the Galactic Services Department, unclaimed and unprocessed for 73 days. That's a violation of 17 different regulations. Wade scrolled through his pad without looking up. We have a transport leaving for Processing Center Theta 9 in 4 hours. The miner will be on it. No. The word was flat final. Wade finally looked at her. This isn't a negotiation, Commander. We have laws for situations like this. Human orphans go to human facilities. It's for their own good. Show me this facility. Wade hesitated, then pulled up files on his pad. Silith took it and read quickly. Theta 9 was overcrowded, housing 3 times its intended capacity. The staff ratio was 1 adult to 40 children. Educational programs were basic at best. Healthcare was minimal. At age 14, residents were transferred to work colonies, assigned to whatever labor-needed bodies. Most damning was the mortality rate. 15% of children didn't survive to age 14. Illness, accidents, suicide. The numbers were clinical, but the reality was clear. Theta 9 was where unwanted children went to be forgotten. This is unacceptable, Silith said. This is reality. We do our best with limited resources. Wade retrieved his pad. The girl will be safe, fed, and educated. That's more than many get. Safe? 15% mortality is safe? Better than the alternatives. Do you know what happens to human children left on stations like this? They end up in gangs, or worse. At least Theta 9 offers structure. Wade's voice softened slightly. I understand you've formed an attachment, Commander. But you can't keep her. You're a Draken. She's human. The biology alone makes it impossible. Your world would kill her in a day. Then I will not take her to my world. You can't stay here forever. Your superiors are already asking questions. How long before they order you back to the fleet? What happens to the girl then? Wade gestured to his security. We can do this easy or hard. Your choice. Lily had been silent through all this, standing beside Silith with her hand gripping the commander's leg. Now she spoke up, her voice steady despite her fear. I don't want to go. I want to stay with Silith. I know, honey, but Commander Silith isn't your mother. She can't be your mother. Wade crouched down to Lily's level, trying to be kind. You need to be with your own kind. With humans who understand you. Silith understands me. Does she? Can she teach you about human history, human culture? Can she help you grow up to be a proper human woman? Wade stood up again, addressing Silith. You're doing her a disservice by keeping her. She needs role models, not a warrior who doesn't know the first thing about raising human children. Silith felt each word like a blade. Wade was right about some things. She didn't know human culture deeply. She couldn't teach Lily things a human mother could. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. I can keep her alive. Can your facility promise the same? We do our best. That is not a promise, Wade sighed. Commander, be reasonable. You have a distinguished career. Don't throw it away over one orphan. There are millions of orphans in the galaxy. You can't save them all? I do not need to save them all. I only need to save this one. Then you'll be doing it alone. I've reviewed the adoption laws. Draken citizens cannot adopt human children. It's incompatible on every level. Legally, biologically, culturally. The Galactic Council will never approve it. Wade tapped his pad. I have the authority to remove the child by force if necessary. I'd rather not, but I will. The security officers shifted, hands moving toward weapons. Syleth calculated odds automatically. She could disable both before they cleared leather. Wade would run. She could stop him too. But then what? She'd be a fugitive, hunted by every legal authority in the sector, and Lily would still be taken eventually, probably by less sympathetic people. How long do I have? Syleth asked quietly. The transport leaves in 4 hours. I'll need to take her within the hour to process the paperwork. Wade actually looked apologetic now. I'm sorry, Commander. I truly am. But the law is the law. After Wade left, promising to return in 45 minutes, Syleth sat with Lily on the bed. The child was trying hard not to cry. Syleth could hear her heart racing, smell the fear sweat on her skin. Every protective instinct screamed at her to run, to fight, to protect this small life at any cost. What do we do? Lily whispered. I do not know. The admission hurt. Syleth always had a plan, always had an answer. But this was beyond her training, beyond her experience. I will not let them take you without fighting. But if I fight, they will send more. And eventually they will win. Maybe Theta 9 won't be so bad. Maybe it's like school. I've never been to school, but other kids say it's okay. Do not lie to yourself. We both know what that place is. Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Old Pete's daughter lives on New Boston. That's a human colony. She's grown up now, but Pete says she always wanted kids. Maybe she could take me. We do not have time to arrange such things. And I do not trust anyone else to keep you safe. Then what? We can't run. We can't fight. We can't adopt. What's left? Syleth stood and paced, her mind working through possibilities. The Draken Empire wouldn't help. They'd order her to surrender the child and return to duty. The station authorities wouldn't interfere with galactic services. Legal channels were closed. Illegal channels would make Lily a fugitive for life. There had to be a way. There was always a way. She'd fought impossible battles and won. She'd survived situations that should have killed her. She'd commanded fleets against overwhelming odds and emerged victorious. But this was different. This wasn't an enemy she could shoot. This was the law, backed by the weight of civilization itself. Syleth? Lily's voice was very small. I'm scared. Syleth returned to the bed and pulled the child into her arms. I know, so am I. You get scared? But you're the dragon lady. You're not scared of anything. I am scared of losing you. They sat together while the minutes ticked away. Outside, life continued as normal. Ships docked and departed. Merchants haggled. Travelers passed through on their way to elsewhere. None of them knew or cared that in this small room, a family was being torn apart by rules written by people who'd never loved something more than themselves. 20 minutes left. Syleth held Lily tighter and searched desperately for an answer that wouldn't come. Somewhere in the station, Wade was preparing paperwork. The transport was being loaded. A cage in Theta 9 was being assigned to one more forgotten child, and Syleth, the dragon lady, the warrior who'd never lost a battle that mattered, was about to lose the most important fight of her life. Unless someone, somewhere, decided that love mattered more than law. Wade returned exactly on time, security officers flanking him like shadows. Syleth had used the remaining minutes to pack Lily's meager belongings into a small bag. The child clutched a stuffed animal that Dr. Ruth had given her, eyes red from crying but face set with determination. It's time, Wade said softly. I'm sorry. So am I, Syleth replied. They walked through the corridors toward the transport bay. Word had spread somehow. People lined the halls, watching in silence. Syleth recognized many faces. Old Pete stood with tears running down his weathered face. Dr. Ruth pressed a hand to her mouth. Chef Boris made a gesture of grief with all 4 arms. They were Lily's family, the outcasts who'd found purpose in caring for one small girl. Pilot Jack stepped forward, blocking the path. You don't have to do this, Inspector. There are other options. Step aside, please. This is already difficult. She belongs here. With people who love her. Not in some processing center where she's just a number. I understand your feelings, but the law is clear. Please move. Jack didn't move. More people stepped forward, forming a loose barrier. Not threatening, not violent, just present. Wade's security officers tensed, hands moving to weapons. The situation was degrading fast. Everyone stand down, Salith said firmly. Violence will only make this worse for Lily. The crowd hesitated, then slowly stepped back. But they didn't disperse. They followed. A silent procession through the station, bearing witness to something they couldn't stop but refused to ignore. By the time they reached the central plaza, hundreds had gathered. Merchants closed their stalls. Workers abandoned their posts. Even the station's administrator, Director Lin, stood watching from an elevated platform. The transport sat in the docking bay beyond the plaza, engines already warming. Wade stopped at the entrance, turning to face the crowd. I know this seems cruel, but it's necessary. The child needs proper care, proper education. Commander Sylith has done her best, but she cannot provide what a human child needs. Can your facility? Someone shouted from the crowd. We do our best with limited resources. 15% mortality. That's your best? Old Pete's voice carried across the plaza. I've seen the reports. I know what Theta 9 really is. Wade's face hardened. What would you have me do? Let her stay here, living in military quarters raised by a Draken warrior? That's not a life for a human child. It's better than death, Dr. Ruth said quietly. It's better than being forgotten, Chef Boris added. Wade looked at Sylith. Commander, help me here. You're a military officer. You understand duty, regulations. Tell them why this has to happen. Sylith looked down at Lily, who stared back with complete trust despite everything. She thought of the past weeks, the laughter and tears, the nightmares chased away with humming, the small hand that always reached for hers. She thought of her oath to the Draken Empire, her duty to follow orders, her responsibility to uphold the law. Then she thought of Lily asking if it was okay to feel both sad and happy at the same time, and she knew what she had to do. Sylith stepped between Wade and the transport, her voice carrying across the plaza with command authority. This is Lily. She is 7 years old. Her parents died 6 months ago, leaving her alone on this station. She survived by helping others, by being kind when the galaxy showed her cruelty. She learned to speak Draken from a maintenance worker. She learned to cook from a chef with 4 arms. She learned to be brave from a doctor hiding from her past. The crowd was silent, listening. She asked me to be her mother for a few days, just until her real mother came back. I agreed because I thought it would be temporary. I thought I could protect myself from caring. Sylith's voice softened. I was wrong. She became mine, not by blood, not by law, but by choice. My choice and hers. Commander, this isn't helping, Wade said. I am not finished. Sylith's eyes blazed. I have served the Draken Empire for 40 years. I have commanded fleets. I have won battles that shaped sectors. I have killed thousands in the name of duty. And in all that time, I never questioned my purpose, until I met a child who showed me what I'd forgotten. She placed a hand on Lily's shoulder. Strength is not only in victories, it is in what we choose to protect. It is in standing between the innocent and those who would harm them, even when the law says we shouldn't. Especially then. You're talking about treason, Wade said quietly. I am talking about love, and if love is treason, then I am a traitor. Sylith drew herself to full height, scales glinting in the plaza lights. You want to take this child to a facility where she has a 15% chance of dying, where she will be forgotten, processed, turned into labor for a system that doesn't care if she lives or dies. You ask me to allow this because it is legal. Sylith's voice dropped to a dangerous rumble. I say that any law requiring me to abandon my child is a law that deserves to be broken. Take her, and you take her over my dead body. And I promise you, Inspector Wade, I will make that a very difficult task. Wade's hand moved to his weapon. The security officers drew theirs. The crowd surged forward, not attacking, but making their position clear. They stood with Sylith. They stood with Lily. Stand down, all of you. Wade's voice cracked. This is illegal. I have the authority of the Galactic Council behind me. Then use it, Sylith said calmly. Call for reinforcements. Start a war over one child. Show the galaxy what your laws really value. For a long moment, nobody moved. Wade's weapon trembled in his hand. He looked at Lily. at Syleth, at the hundreds of beings surrounding them. He saw old Pete crying. He saw Dr. Ruth standing tall despite her fear. He saw Chef Boris with all four arms crossed in defiance. He saw a community willing to fight for one of their own. "You're making a mistake," Wade said. "Perhaps, but it is my mistake to make." Wade holstered his weapon. His security did the same. "I'll be filing a report. The council will send others. They won't be as understanding as me. Then we will deal with them when they come." Wade turned to leave, then stopped. He looked back at Lily, and for just a moment his professional mask cracked. "Take care of her, Commander. She deserves better than what we could have given her." "I know. That is why I will not let her go." Wade walked away, his security following. The crowd erupted in cheers. Lily threw herself into Syleth's arms, sobbing with relief. Old Pete pushed through the crowd, followed by the others. They surrounded Syleth and Lily, a wall of protection, a declaration of family. Director Lin descended from his platform, walking slowly through the parting crowd. He was human, middle-aged, with tired eyes that had seen too much. He stopped before Syleth and studied her for a long moment. "Commander, do you understand what you've just done? Galactic Services won't let this go. The Council will send enforcers. You've started something that could have consequences for this entire station." "I understand." Lin looked at Lily, then back at Syleth. Something shifted in his expression. "There is an old provision in human law. Rarely used, often forgotten. It states that a child may be adopted by any sentient being if the child consents, if the arrangement is clearly in the child's best interest, and if a human authority witnesses and approves the adoption." Syleth's heart seemed to stop. "What are you saying?" "I am saying that I am the senior human authority on this station. I have the legal power to witness and approve such adoptions." Lin pulled out a datapad. "I will need signatures from both of you, and a formal statement of consent from the child. You would do this, knowing the consequences?" Lin smiled sadly. Inspector Wade was wrong about one thing. The law isn't just what's written in books, it's what we choose to enforce and how and why. I choose to enforce the part that says a child's welfare comes first. He looked at Lily. "Young lady, do you wish Commander Syleth to be your legal guardian?" Lily nodded frantically. Yes, please. She's my mom. And do you believe she will care for you properly? She keeps me safe. She teaches me things. She makes the nightmares go away." Lily looked up at Syleth. "She chose me when nobody else did." Lin typed on his pad, then held it out. "Then by the authority granted to me by the Human Colonial Administration, I hereby witness and approve this adoption. Commander Syleth, you are now the legal guardian of one Lily Morrison, age 7, human. Congratulations. You have a daughter." The crowd erupted again. This time Syleth joined them, wrapping her wings around Lily, holding her close while the plaza celebrated around them. Old Pete was laughing and crying at the same time. Dr. Ruth hugged Chef Boris, who hugged back with all four arms. Pilot Jack was already spreading the news over the station's communication system. Lily looked up at Syleth, her face wet with tears but smiling wider than the stars. "Does this mean I can stay forever?" "Forever," Syleth confirmed. "You are mine now. Truly mine. No one can take you away. And you're mine too, right? Because it goes both ways?" "Yes, I am yours too." They stood in the center of the plaza, guardian and child, warrior and daughter, two beings the galaxy said couldn't be family but were anyway. The battle wasn't over. Wade's report would reach the council. Enforcers would come. Questions would be raised. Challenges would be made, but for now, in this moment, they'd won. Love had beaten law. Choice had beaten obligation. And a Draken warrior had learned that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was open your heart to something small and fragile and precious. Something worth protecting. Something worth fighting for. Something called family. 6 months after the adoption, Syleth received a formal letter from the Draken Empire. It was brief and direct. She was to report to her fleet within 10 days or face court-martial for desertion. Her response was even briefer. She resigned her commission, surrendering the rank she'd spent 40 years earning, giving up the only life she'd ever known. Lily found her staring at the resignation confirmation, scales dim with something that might have been regret. "Are you sad? About leaving the military?" Sad, relieved, afraid, all of these at once. Syleth looked at her daughter, who was taller now, healthier, with hair that actually shone from proper care. "I gave up everything for you." Do you understand that? I know. And I'm sorry it had to be that way. I am not. Syleth pulled Lily close. I would make the same choice 1,000 times. You are worth more than any rank or position. The Galactic Council sent 3 more delegations to remove Lily. Each time, Director Lin produced the legal adoption papers. Each time, the station's population made it clear they would resist any attempt to take the child. Each time, the delegates left empty-handed, filing angry reports that went nowhere. Eventually, they stopped coming. Lily was legitimately adopted under human law, and no one could find a legal way to challenge it. Syleth found work as a security consultant for the station. Merchants who'd once feared her now hired her to protect their shipments. Travelers sought her guidance on safe routes. She used her military expertise to keep people safe instead of making war. The pay was less than military service, but the work felt right in a way command never had. Lily thrived. Dr. Ruth tutored her in medicine and science. Old Pete taught her engineering. Chef Boris showed her how to cook for 12 different species. Pilot Jack, who'd regained his license after years of sobriety, taught her the basics of navigation. She learned from everyone, absorbing knowledge like a sponge, growing into someone remarkable. But the nightmares still came sometimes. Syleth would wake to find Lily standing by her bed, silent tears on her face. Without a word, she'd lift the covers and Lily would climb in, curling against scales that had become home. Syleth would hum the old lullabies until her daughter slept peacefully again. You'll have to stop doing that eventually, Dr. Ruth said one day, watching Syleth comfort Lily after a particularly bad dream. She's getting older. She needs to learn to cope independently. When she is ready, she will tell me. Until then, I will be here. You're a good mother, Syleth. Better than many born to it. I am learning. She is patient with my mistakes. The truth was, they learned together. Syleth learned about human holidays and tried to recreate them in their small quarters. Birthdays with cake that Chef Boris helped make. Winter celebrations with decorations Lily crafted from recycled materials. Simple traditions that built a life together. Lily learned about Draken culture too. She studied the history of the Empire, the meaning behind the scale's colors, the significance of the lullabies Syleth sang. She wanted to understand half of her heritage, even if she'd never visit a Draken world. Tell me about your daughter, Lily said one evening, 2 years after the adoption. She was 9 now, brave enough to ask difficult questions. Your first daughter, the one you lost? Syleth was quiet for a long time. She'd never spoken of this to anyone. Her name was Kira. She was small even for a hatchling. Weak lungs. She survived only 3 months. I'm sorry. I swore I would never feel that pain again. I built walls around my heart and filled my life with war. For 40 years I felt nothing but duty. Syleth touched Lily's hair gently. Then you asked me to be your mother for a few days. And the walls crumbled. Do you think Kira would be mad? That you loved me? No. I think she would be happy I finally learned to love again. Syleth pulled Lily close. You did not replace her. You helped me heal from losing her. There is a difference. Years passed. Lily grew from child to teenager, navigating the complexity of adolescence with a Draken warrior for a mother. They fought sometimes, usually about curfews or dangerous friends or the proper way to handle bullies. Syleth struggled with the concept that she couldn't solve every problem with strength. Lily struggled with having the most overprotective guardian on the station. You can't threaten everyone who looks at me wrong, Lily shouted during one memorable argument. I can and I will. You are my daughter. I will not allow anyone to harm you. I'm not a baby anymore. I can handle myself. You are 14. You are absolutely still a baby. You're impossible. I am your mother. It is my job to be impossible. They always made up within hours, neither able to stay angry at the other for long. Syleth would find Lily in their quarters doing homework or reading. Lily would look up, still hurt but wanting peace. Syleth would sit beside her and they'd talk until the fight was forgotten. Old Pete died when Lily was 16. The funeral was attended by hundreds, a testament to a man who'd fixed more than machines. Lily cried in Syleth's arms for hours, mourning the gentle soul who'd taught her kindness. Syleth held her daughter and remembered her own losses, grateful that Lily had people to grieve for, proof that she'd been loved by more than just one Draken warrior. When Lily turned 18, she announced her intention to become a doctor. Like Dr. Ruth, I want to help people who can't help themselves. It will be difficult. Years of study. Long hours. Little appreciation. I know, but it's what I want to do. Syleth felt pride swell in her chest. Then you will be magnificent at it. Lily was accepted to medical school on New Boston, a human colony 3 weeks' travel from the station. The day of departure arrived too quickly. Syleth helped pack, trying not to show how much this hurt. Her daughter was leaving. Growing up, moving on. It was natural, expected, the way things should be, but it felt like losing something precious. At the transport dock, Lily threw her arms around Syleth and held tight. Thank you. For everything. For choosing me when you didn't have to. You chose me first. You asked me to be your mother. Only for a few days. It seems a few days turned into forever. Syleth pulled back to look at her daughter, this human girl who'd become the center of her universe. I am proud of who you are, of who you are becoming. I'm proud of you too. You gave up everything for me. Your career, your world, your people. That's the bravest thing anyone's ever done. Not brave. Necessary. You were necessary. They hugged again, both crying now, both trying to be strong for the other. Finally, Lily boarded the transport. She stood at the window, waving as the ship prepared to depart. Syleth watched until the transport disappeared into the stars, carrying away the most important thing in her life. Director Lin found her still standing at the dock hours later. She'll come back, you know. For visits. For holidays. And when she's done with school, she might even set up practice here. I know. But right now she is gone and I am alone again. Are you? Look around, Syleth turned. The plaza was full of familiar faces. Dr. Ruth, Chef Boris, Pilot Jack, dozens of others. The family Lily had built around them, still here, still present. They gathered around Syleth, offering comfort without words, reminding her that she wasn't alone. You changed this station, Lynn said quietly. You changed all of us. That little girl showed you how to love, and you showed us that love matters more than law. That's legacy worth more than any military victory. Syleth thought about this. She thought about the dragon lady she'd been. Feared and respected, but utterly alone. She thought about who she'd become. A mother to one remarkable human and a protector to a community of outcasts. She thought about Lily, out there among the stars, carrying with her the lessons they'd learned together. Maybe she hadn't lost everything when she resigned her commission. Maybe she'd finally found something worth keeping. 10 years later, Dr. Lily Morrison returned to Station Meridian to open a medical practice. She was 28, confident, skilled, everything Syleth had hoped she'd become. She set up her clinic in the lower decks, treating the people others ignored, just like Dr. Ruth had done years before. Syleth visited her every day, bringing meals, helping with repairs, being present without being intrusive. They fell back into old patterns easily, the comfortable rhythm of mother and daughter who genuinely liked each other. Sometimes patients would stare at the Draken warrior sitting in the waiting room, protective and proud. Your mother? They'd ask Lily, uncertain. Yes, she adopted me when I was 7, but she's Draken. She is, and she's the best mother anyone could ask for. Lily would smile, that bright smile that had first captured Syleth's heart. She taught me that family isn't about what you are. It's about who you choose to love. One evening, as they sat in Lily's apartment above the clinic, watching ships come and go through the viewport, Lily asked the question that had started everything. Do you remember what I asked you? That first day in the market? I remember. You asked if I could be your mother for a few days. A few days turned into forever, didn't it? It did. Do you regret it? Any of it? Syleth thought about the rank she'd surrendered, the career she'd abandoned, the comfortable certainty she'd traded for chaos and love, and the terrifying vulnerability of caring for something so fragile. She thought about nightmares and lullabies, about fights and forgiveness, about watching her daughter grow into someone remarkable. No, she said simply, not for a single moment. They sat together in comfortable silence, guardian and child, warrior and healer. Two beings who'd found each other against all odds and built something the galaxy said was impossible. The story of the dragon lady and the little girl who tamed her had spread across systems, inspiring others, proving that love could bridge any divide. But for Syleth and Lily, it wasn't a story. It was simply life. Their life. Strange and difficult and absolutely perfect in its imperfection. It had started with a question asked in innocence by a child who saw kindness where others saw only danger. It continued because a warrior chose love over duty, family over fear. And it would last forever. This bond forged in the market corridors of a busy station. This impossible family built on the simple belief that love matters more than law, more than biology, more than anything else in the universe. Lily reached over and took Silith's clawed hand in her own. I love you, Mom. I love you too, my daughter, always. And somewhere in the vastness of space on 1,000 different worlds, the story continued to spread. The story of a child who asked an impossible question and a warrior who gave an impossible answer. The story that proved humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology or weapons or conquest. It was the ability to look at someone completely different and say, "You are mine and I am yours, and nothing will ever change that." That was the story. That was their story, and it was only the beginning.